As critical as we are about the Jaguars, we still root for their success. I'll tell you about some best case scenarios for the team here today on Locked On Jaguars.
You are Locked On Jaguars, your daily Jacksonville Jaguars podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
It is your team every day. We thank you for making us your first listen here on Locked On Jaguars. And you can find us on our YouTube page that is Locked On Jaguars. And wherever you listen or hear your podcast, make sure you check into those locations each and every day. We thank the everydayers for joining us here on Locked On Jaguars, as we always do. And today's show is brought to you and sponsored by FanDuel. Place your first $5 bet and you'll get started with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. I'm your host, Tony Wiggins. Of course, Locked On Jaguars, Locked On NFL. Right now, it's all about the Jaguars. I'm going to tell you about the show that we got for you today. Key attractions. People, I put out these at the behest and at the constant request, and I don't usually do that because I'm not a jukebox, but I put out my dream scenario for the Jaguars if they make changes next year. And after that, folks were saying, well, would those people want to come here? I'll tell you why. Yeah, they would. The key attractions to Jacksonville, we'll go over that late in the show. In the middle, pulling for success despite anger. How do Jaguars fans manage to want change, but realizing that the more success, or if things do turn around, that change won't happen? I'm going to tell you the best case scenarios for that. That's where we're going to start. The best case scenarios for this team at 1-5 and what it would mean and why there is no contradiction in wanting them to win, but also wanting them to make changes. All right, let's get started and let's talk about it right here, right now. Best case scenario for the Jaguars at 1-5 with a very, very tough slate. I don't think people think or believe that this week's game against New England is a tough game, playing against one of the worst rosters in the league and with a rookie quarterback who is only going to be making his second start in Drake May, the rookie coaching staff. And I said all of that to set this up. They cannot lose this game. If they lose this one, this pretty much seals the deal, I believe, for the Jacksonville Jaguars and puts them at a very, very low point, losing to the team last week that had the number 1 overall pick, and then with a rookie quarterback. And now, if they turn around and lose a game this week against New England, a team that people believe are really one of the worst teams in the league, this would really, really bode terrible. And I would think if that happens, you probably see them start to make some changes initially very quick. But let's just say that they win this game and they go to 2-5, right? I think that would be the record. Yeah, the 2-5. They're 1-5 right now. They go to 2-5. Most people thought that they had a chance to come back from London 3-4. This is their second consecutive game in London. Most people thought that they'd be 3-4 when they came back. Didn't happen. They're going to be 2-5 at best, maybe 1-6 at worst. Then they have a very, very tough 6-game slate. Let's just say they go 3-3, right? They haven't shown any reason that you think they're going to do that, but sometimes that's what happens in the NFL, man. Like that team, that bad Patriot team I'm just talking about, they beat the Bengals. Y'all might not think the Bengals are very good because the Bengals are 2-4, but the Bengals lost some very, very close games and they've had a tough schedule. So when you look at it, if they're 2-4 and they come back and then over the next 6 games, those Jaguars, I'll tell you who those opponents are too while I'm at it. But if they go 3-3 over the next 6 games, what would that mean? Well, that would mean at that point they'd be 6-7 or 5-7, right? That's the Duval County high school education there, kicking into full effect. Yeah, so they'd be 6-7. If that means they beat New England, let's just say hypothetically they come back and they catch Green Bay slipping, and they beat Green Bay, and then they go up to Philly and they catch Philly slipping. This is a lot of slipping to catch, by the way. Um, if they can get to, if they win those two games, say they beat New England, so that's 4-5, right? I know y'all sitting there saying that ain't gonna happen, but look, I'm trying to give you some optimism, all right? And then they play Minnesota. I don't think they're gonna beat Minnesota and Brian Flores under any circumstances. They lose that game, and then of course they go to Detroit, and I don't think that everything that Detroit does will show all of the Jaguars' flaws, right? So let's just say over those next 5 games, they go 3-2, and that's whew, I'm asking a lot when I do that, right? So that would make them 5-7 over the next 5 games. Let me make sure. Now I got to add that up. No, they'll make them 4-7. See, there's the Duval County education again. So that makes them 4-7. Then they play Houston. I don't think they can beat Houston, even though they played very well against Houston the last couple of times. I just don't think they can beat Houston when they would have to. That would make them 4-6 with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 games left to go. No, that's not right. That's not right. So let's backtrack a little bit. All right. So the team is 1-5 right now, and I'm not editing this either. Y'all seeing me go through this right now, right? The team is 1-5. They have 11 games left. Of those 11 games, let's say they beat New England. Let's say somehow they found a way to beat Green Bay and beat Philly. Now that's 3 in a row. Now the team's feeling good about themselves, right? So that's 4-5. This is best case scenario. I say they lose to Minnesota and Detroit. That's 4-7. All right, 4-7 is 11 with 6 games left to go. Then they lose to Houston. It's 4-8. Listen to this. They got at Tennessee, the Jets at home, Vegas on the road, Tennessee, and the Colts. They can win all 5 of those games. They can win all 5 of those games down the stretch. That makes them 9-8 for the 3rd year in a row, and they would have done it again the way that they did it in 2022. I know y'all are like, what are you smoking this morning? No, I ain't smoking nothing. I don't inhale too much, cigar smoke or anything like that. And I haven't chewed anything either. I'm just trying to find a way to be optimistic. And as y'all can tell, I'm struggling with it a little bit about the Jaguar schedule. I'm gonna tell you what, that's a 5-game gauntlet that I would challenge any team in the league to say that they have it worse than the Jaguars. When you look at Green Bay, Philly, Minnesota, Detroit, and Houston. Even if you skip the Tennessee game and get to New York, the Jets, and that's a tough game. And then there's a physical nature about Las Vegas, going to Vegas right before Christmas, that I don't necessarily like because of the way that they play. And Gardner Minshew I don't think Gardner will be starting by then. I think Caden O'Connell will be the quarterback. But the point is the best case scenario, they're 9-8. In that scenario, they still have to clean house, because that would show you that under any and all circumstances, the best possible scenario for the Jaguars under Trent Baalke and Doug Peterson is they're going to be a 9-8 football team, because that would be 3 straight years that they're 9-8. That's why this start to this season is so bad. And that's why my outlook for this team is so terrible, because I'm sitting here telling you that if they go 8-3 the rest of the way, that still only puts them at 9-8. And I don't think that gets them into the playoffs, because they definitely won't win the division with Houston in it. This is like, I can't imagine the football team we've seen the first 6 weeks going 8-3, especially with a 5 or 6 game stretch, or 6 out of 7 game stretch against the teams that I talked about. But my best case scenario is for you. The reason why I think this is the end, and should be the end, because 9-8 will still not be good enough based on all of the things that they have done. That means you're no better than you were 2 years ago. And more importantly, it would signal that whatever plagued you 2 years ago when you lost all of those games and then you won all of those games, and then last year when you won all of those games and then you lost all of those games to end the season, and now you would lose all of these games early and win a whole bunch of games down the stretch, that means that you can't put things together, that you're always going to be that way. And I would bet money that if they retained everybody, they'd have a tale of 2 seasons again in 2025. You can't be consistent at being inconsistent. And that would be what that is. That's why I think this is over. But I do think you can still pull for them to win and hopefully get to 9-8, because I do think that they would make a change. And people keep saying, why would they make a change? Shad doesn't change. He never changes. He's only going to promote Ethan Wall if that happens. I'm going to tell you why I don't think that's the case in this situation. And I'll do it in just a second here as we continue on Locked On Jaguars. Today's show is sponsored and brought to you by LinkedIn Talent Solutions. If you are starting a small business or a business, period, hiring is very, very important. But there's a lot of other things that are probably on your docket, like dealing with contractors. Whoo, do I know that one? And then dealing with state regulations. I know about that one too. And when you're hiring for your small business, you want to find quality professionals that are right for their role, but sometimes you just don't have time. That's why you have to check out LinkedIn Jobs. Even if you do have the time, LinkedIn Jobs has the tools to help you find the right professionals for your team faster and for free. It's not just the job board. LinkedIn helps you hire professionals you can't find anywhere else, even those who aren't actively searching for a new job, but might be open to the perfect role. In a given month, over 70% of LinkedIn users don't visit other leading sites. So if you're not looking on LinkedIn, you're looking in the wrong place. Small businesses are wearing so many hats and might not have the time or resources to make the hire. And even if you do, LinkedIn still does it better than anybody else. 2.5 million small businesses use LinkedIn for hiring. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedonnfl. That's linkedin.com/lockedonnfl to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. Today's show is also brought to you and sponsored by Prize Picks. Let me tell you something, man. 10 million people use Prize Picks. That's right. And play Prize Picks. That means there are billions of dollars being awarded in winnings every single week. And you need to get in up on it, man, because it is the #1 daily fantasy sports, and they have made it accessible to everybody. All you do is pick more or less on at least 2 players for a shot to win up to 100 times your cash. Run your game all season long on Prize Picks, man. And here's what you do. You go to prizepicks.com. You allow yourself to download the Prize Picks app. Use the code LOCKEDONNFL, all one word, to get $50 instantly when you play your first $5 lineup. The code again is LOCKEDONNFL, LOCKEDONNFL, and you'll get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. It's Prize Picks, man. Get on it. Go have you some fun and make you some of that bread. All right, segment number 2 here on Locked On Jaguars, where it's your team every day, trying to keep you motivated to watch the rest of the season and let you know that there's not a contradiction to root for your team to be successful. And there's you can still, if y'all want change, you can still get change even if they have a modicum of success. Now, there's one scenario where I don't think they'll make a change. And what that is instead of going 8-3, if they go 10-1. And I know a bunch of y'all just don't get fired laughing at work while you listen to me saying that. Right? Don't sit at the red light and get a ticket because you cannot believe your jaw just dropped because you can't believe what I just said. If they go 10-1, that means that just imagine how slow this start of this season is. If the Jags go 10-1, they finish 11-6. And 11-6 is cool, but it's kind of, that was kind of the floor of where everyone thought this team was going to be. The floor. And that didn't include, that scenario didn't include a 1-5 start. There's a 1-5 start. And if they go 10-1 the rest of the way, if I told you that the Jaguars at the beginning of the season, if I said the last 11 games, the Jaguars are going to win 10 of them. They're going to go 10-1 in their last 11 games. What's their record? You'll say 13, no less than 13-4. No less than 13-4. That means they would go 3-3 in the first 6 games. So this is telling you, and I'm showing you just how difficult it is going to be to change the minds of Jaguar fans, people in the media, and hopefully the people in the front office. Hopefully. You can still pull for your team to have success. And you want them to. You want Trevor Lawrence to show improvement. You want Anton Harrison to take the next step. And so far this year, I don't believe he's done that, at least in our minds. I haven't watched all 22 like that or looked at his grade per se, but I do watch him sometimes. And I don't think that he's taking that next step like I thought he would. Cam Robinson hasn't done enough to make you think that he's going to be a long-term solution here in Jacksonville. Tank Bigsby, you want to see Tank Bigsby to continue to improve. I want Travis Etienne to get healthy. He looks like he's banged up. It looks like it's wearing on him, man. He almost looks like a shot fighter, and it's too early for him to be that way in his career. I want Brian Thomas Jr. to continue to assert himself as one of the 5 best young receivers in the league. And I think he's probably not number 3, 4, or 5. I definitely know he's not number 4 or 5 when you're talking about young wide receivers. I would like to see the continued development, of course, with Trayvon Walker on defense and Josh Allen to stay healthy. Ventrell Miller has been a really, really nice surprise. Get Foy Oluokun back, and you're probably cooking with some grease. And then get Tyson Campbell back, and I want to see him continue to develop too. I don't know what their plan is for Andre Cisco at this point. But the thing is there are certain key elements to this team that you want them to do well because you just want them to do well. And just because the team is playing poorly, it doesn't mean that everything about the team needs to get scrapped. And I think a lot of people make the mistake of doing that. I want them to bring you some joy on Sunday night and Monday morning. I do. I also want them to play well enough to give whoever may take this job, and this is what we're going to start segueing in. We're going to do it in terms of, I've shown you the ridiculousness that has to happen for us to stop thinking that they need a whole bunch of change. But you do want people to have a clear definition of what they have. And see, this is the thing that I've always told people about bad teams. It's part of the reason Carolina made the switch. One reason is the players looked like they were threatening mutiny up there with Bryce Young as the quarterback. But the other thing is everyone thought, okay, that's just totally the worst roster ever. And then you bring Andy Dalton in, and they won a game, and then they played respectable ever since he's been there. So you can evaluate other people. The better the people that you put on the field, you get a clear evaluation of exactly, okay, well, this is not that bad. That's not that bad either. And so you stop with this thinking that everything has to be purged. So it'll give a clear identity, or it'll identify people that whoever, whether it's Ian Cunningham or whoever the new GM is, they'll know exactly what they have. And to that point, a lot of people were asking me, well, why would he come here if Ian Cunningham or any other GM, if they're considered the hottest people on the market? Why would they come here? There's nothing to come here for. I'm going to call people that say that to task. One, you don't understand coaching and getting jobs. There's 32 jobs in the NFL. I think the most I've ever seen in the offseason open was like 8. But these dudes work their entire lives to get the opportunity to show that they can change things. What if Dan Campbell said, you know what, the Lions have never won a playoff game. Why would I go up there? What if he said that? And people don't understand that these coaches believe that coaches and GMs believe that they can fix anything. That's a part of who they are. If they don't think that they can fix any situation, then they probably don't need to be in that profession, because their profession is all about fixing stuff. You imagine a doctor saying, yeah, man, I only operate on legs, man. I can't fix nothing else. Oh, I can only deal with people with diabetes, man. I don't want to deal with anything else. Of course, they're a specialist, but that would be ridiculous if you went to the emergency room and the trauma doctor said, well, let me go get the other guy because he's better at this than me. That'd be ridiculous. It's like, dude, what are you doing? Give me some morphine or something. I'm hurting. So the thing is they don't think that way. And it's important that we understand that. So what I'm going to do in the third part of the show, I'm going to talk about some of these key attractions. Then I'm going to tell you exactly why you shouldn't think that way, because if you do, you're actually giving Doug Peterson an out or a mulligan. Why and how? Listen, when I get back, I'll let you know. Today's show is also sponsored by FanDuel, man. Y'all know how I feel about FanDuel. FanDuel helps me enjoy the season. Even when my pro and college team are both taking an absolute beating and maybe the worst that they've been collectively in a long time, and now together they're doing horrible, I can still enjoy it because I can win money. That's right, with FanDuel, the number one sports book in America. You can start the season with a big return on FanDuel also. You know what? Make a bet. You'll get started with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place your first $5 bet. You might win a whole bunch of money. But even then, when you make your bet and you're watching it and you're trying to figure out during the game what's going on, you ain't got to switch pages. All of the info you need is right there on that same page where you make your wager. You can check all the stats and you can even hit play-by-play for the games. If it's coming down to you winning or losing, you're going to be interested in that, right? All you got to do is get started and go to FanDuel, man. It's America's number one sports book, FanDuel.com. Get started with a $5 bet, and you'll get $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you make your first $5 bet. So go visit America's number one sports book, win you some money. That is FanDuel.com. All right, man, we're here Locked On Jaguars, trying to make sense out of this season, which doesn't make sense at all in a lot of ways. We talked about the best case scenario for the Jaguars, and I had to laugh at myself when I talked about them winning 10 out of 11 games. Pulling for success despite your anger and your hope that this has changed. This is not a situation where you have to think that this needs to go totally off the rails and be an embarrassment for the rest of the season if you're not embarrassed already. All of that ain't necessary for Shad Khan to have enough ammunition to make change. Hopefully he will. Key attractions. All right, let's get the key attractions for this team and why someone would want to take this job. Outside of the fact that this is the pinnacle of most of these guys' careers, outside of the fact that there are no crazy expectations to live up to. There's no tradition here. It's not like you're taking over the Cowboys job and you got an owner that all he thinks about is winning and going 11-5 and isn't as important and all of that other stuff and helicopters landing all over the place. You ain't got to worry about all of that here in Jacksonville. You don't have to worry about Shad Khan doing a bunch of radio interviews and talking in the hallway after the game and making a spectacle out of the entire situation. None of that stuff. You ain't got to worry about the owner being all in the videos, as Suge Knight once said about Diddy. But what you do is you do have to be concerned that Shad won't make a clean sweep and he'll do what he's always done. I think the difference is Trevor Lawrence, and not only Trevor Lawrence, is Trevor Lawrence's contract. Does that mean that Trevor's going to go in there and shake his finger and say, you need to do this or do that? Nah, I don't think that's in his personality, but I do believe that if they go talk to him and they want their investment to be successful, I think they listen to somebody that would tell them, we just need to totally reboot everything, right? I really do. Or even if Trevor doesn't hint at that, I think totally rebooting everything would be a good start for him because it's something that he could try that he's actually never done, with the exception of the second year that he had the team. So it's really, in my opinion, a good job. The reason that it's a good job is, one, they're building a new stadium here, and everyone knows it. That means the team isn't leaving. That means that if you come and win here, they'll put a statue up of you. And all that means is you got to come here and be able to do your job. The thing that makes this job attractive is, one, Shad has to clean house. If he leaves the GM in place, it's not as attractive. And that little tidbit and what happened the last time during the hiring cycle should let Shad Khan know that part of this whole scenario needs to change. Even if you thought it was Trent's fault and not Doug's, Doug has to be changed too, because at some point, even if it's not totally his fault, then he's not going to be the one to bring him out of this because he was around when all of this stuff happened, right? Here's the thing, though. If you keep saying that There's no reason to come here. Trevor's not any good. They wasted these picks. They wasted that pick. They did this. They did this. They did this. What coach wants to come in here in that situation, even if they fire Trent Baalke? Why would a GM want to come here and have to clean up that mess? You're giving Doug Peterson and Press Taylor and Ryan Nielsen and Mike Caldwell, you're giving them a pass when you say that, because basically what you're saying is no one could have won coaching players drafted by Trent Baalke. That's not what you want to do. You want it all gone. You don't want to have to pick a side. You don't want to have to say it's more this guy's fault than that guy's fault. That's what gets you in trouble in the first place. Start it all over. Don't worry about whose fault it was. That's baggage. What you do now is get off to a completely new start with a whole bunch of new people and make those people accountable. All right? Get the GM in place that's going to be in lockstep with the coach. And both of those guys together are in lockstep with Trevor Lawrence. And they could sell it real quick. None of that stuff that you were taught worked. I know you want to win. Let's win. And this is how we do it. You turn that dude into Troy Aikman or Jared Goff, but you have to build the team around him, and you have to have the expectation that it might take a minute. Jaguar fans would be real cool with the fact that they know that this thing is headed in the right direction, and that maybe it's only going to be a 2 or 3 win difference the first year. That this team might go from 3-14 to 6-11 and have it look a little bit better than it did before. And then they can make that bigger jump the following year and maybe go 10-7. And then by year 3, they're knocking on the door. That's just where we are right now. Maybe it goes a little bit faster than that. There's a chance that happens. But if it doesn't, you gotta be looking for short-term improvement, which leads to long-term success. So the key attractions is Trevor Lawrence. Because if we're measuring Trevor Lawrence by how good he's been based on how good we thought he was going to be, sure, it hasn't gone that way. But if you measure Trevor Lawrence about what kind of player he is, how good he is, what his temperament is, how he works, how he approaches everything, his physical tools, he is still somebody you can win a lot of football games with in the right situation. And it doesn't have to be a right situation that is really, really minute and small. No, he doesn't have like one way he can win. He can win throwing it 40 times, but more than likely he's going to be more successful throwing it 25, 26 times a game because the rest of the team is built up properly. Trayvon Walker and Josh Allen, you got your pass rusher. You got one offensive tackle at the very least, and Anton Harrison, although you'd like to see a little bit more improvement in that area. You have one solid cornerback in Tyson Campbell that has really, really good physical tools that allows you. You got 2 off-ball linebackers that you know you can count on in Foye Oluokun and Ventrell Miller. You got Brian Thomas Jr., and he's probably at the top of the list as a big-time wide receiver. And the thing that is very, very hard to find, and that is an alpha that can be a game changer at any moment for your quarterback. And then there's some other little pieces. You got the running back room looks pretty decent, and there are some other parts and pieces. You're probably going to have a high draft pick in a draft where if you're not picking number 1, if you're picking number 1, it's almost a no-brainer that you got to take Travis Hunter and play in the corner, and then just build stuff around that, and maybe use him every now and then on punt return, and maybe have a little sample size for him too on offense. But I would play him on defense. Because with guys like Brian Thomas Jr., with guys like Jamar Chase, and with guys like Justin Jefferson, you need a dude just like that on the other side. I was telling somebody the reason why I favor him at corner is because let's just look at the draft. You got the big receiver from Arizona. The other 2 really, really good receivers are Travis Hunter and the freshman Smith up at Ohio State. The thing that all 3 of those guys have in common is that they have this weird, otherworldly talent and ability. The only person that can guard a guy like that is someone with otherworldly talent and ability. Well, Travis Hunter's that dude, so I'd rather play him at corner to negate those other guys and be able to make plays and affect the game in that area than I will at wide receiver, where you're going to make him susceptible to getting hurt all the time. And it's not that big. It's 180, 185 pounds at the most. So, and he's banged up right now in Colorado. But the point is even if you don't do that, you can move back and you can get all of these draft picks and you can start building this thing the way you're supposed to. So there are key attractions. One, it's an NFL job. The other thing is they got some pretty decent players in some pretty decent spots, especially at the key positions. Now you just have to build the infrastructure. This is a situation where you come in and you see a new you see an old building. You just got to tear a whole bunch of the things around it and you got to gut it. But there's a nice frame here that you don't have to get rid of from an engineering standpoint. And I think that's what the Jaguars are. I don't think it's a total rebuild. I do think, though, that there's a lot of work to do. There's a lot of work to do and a lot of minds that have to be changed in that building of how they're going to do that work. And that's why I think you need leadership, new direction, and all of that. But in the meantime, Jaguar fans, you can continue to still root for your team and hope for success without that success changing the fact that you want change at the end of the year. That is, of course, unless they go 10-1 the rest of the way and win 2 games in the playoffs, then you can't change it. All right, man, nothing's going to change here on Locked On Jaguars, and nothing has changed too much on Locked On NFL. It's still a great show. It's just now you get 2 of them. Tyler, the Madman, rolling early in the morning, gives you a double shot of espresso on Locked On NFL. And me, I'm on the barbershop in the middle of the day. Just come sit up in there and hang out and talk about the NFL. And we do it with the Locked On NFL experts from around the league that know your teams like no one else. Make sure y'all tap in. Locked On Jaguars fans, y'all go over there and listen to that show and tap in, subscribe, and listen to Locked On NFL. All right. All right, man. We'll have a crossover episode with Mike Debate of Locked On Patriots tomorrow. And also you can check out the AFC squad, our AFC Locked On host. We did it again, man. We recorded another episode. That will be out to you also before the weekend. Until then, you guys take care of each other. I'll do the same. We'll see you here on Locked On Jaguars.